Hello there. Happy April. It's April. Woohoo. I hope you enjoyed our silly April's Fool's joke on Smart Pitches. Did I just say April's Fool's jokes? Yes, I think I did. So April Fool's joke. We were smart fishes, trashy hooks, and I will never not laugh at the image of cover shark. I hope you enjoyed that. I love April Fool's Day. I know a lot of people hate it, but I really like it. But I have very specific rules about April Fool's Day. I know many of you requested more ranting. This isn't a rant, but I will say that my rules for April Fool's Day jokes and pranks in general is that at the end of it, everyone must be laughing. Everyone must be in on the joke. It's not meant to humiliate or make a fool of anyone. And there have been webpage April Fool's pranks where people have emailed me and said, did you get hacked? There's an ad for like one year we did a cryptocurrency. And someone was like, did you get hacked? There's an ad for crypto. And I was like, oh, a little too close to reality there. The other, and which is the other element of a good April Fool's Day joke or a good prank, if you want to do it, is that it has to be close enough to reality to be just this side of probable. There's a good chance wait a minute, maybe this is possible. Now, I don't know if sharp fishes, trashy hooks is well in the realm of probable, but we've done, like I said, cryptocurrency. We've had our own social media network. And my favorite is, of course, the wearable Smart Bitches, Trashy Books wearable smartwatch, which will stop time. That was the one that I wish I could make real. But yeah, those are my rules for April Fool's jokes. They have to they have to be such that everyone is in on the joke, that everyone is laughing, and that it's just a little bit probable. But for today's bonus episode, I wanted to talk about some titles that are on my TBR for April. So you have some news of books that are coming out. And I also want to know what's on your TBR because April is a big month. There are a lot of books coming out in April. Every time there's a month where this many books are coming out, I'm wondering, like, did stuff get moved? Is this part of the paper shortage? Like, there's a lot of books, but here we go. So the first one I want to talk about is called The Murder of Mr. Ma by John Shen Ni and S.J. Rozan. It comes out today on April 2nd. And this is a merge of Sherlock Holmes and Gong-an crime fiction. I think I'm saying that correctly. I had to go look up what that was. Gong-an crime fiction is a very popular and very old subgenre of Chinese crime fiction. The Murder of Mr. Ma is about a somewhat timid scholar who is teamed up very unexpectedly with a character named Judge Di Renji to try and solve a series of weird murders in 1920s England. There's a lot of action. And one of the reasons why I was curious about this is because it is pitched for fans of the Guy Ritchie Sherlock Holmes films, you know, the ones with Robert Downey Jr. and Jude Law. Whoever wrote that copy is very smart because that is entirely right. Like, it is super fast moving. There's a ton of action. You're not entirely sure what Judge D is doing. Like, something's going on, but the narrator, who is the scholar, he's often lost a lot of the time. There's also a lot of racism from various characters because it is in the 20s. And if you want to pick this up, I'm listening to the audiobook, just be aware that it's something like this, like, sort of toxic stew that they're constantly coming up against because it is so overt. There is also an absolute ton of characters. And I understand that this is a specific hallmark of Gong-an crime fiction. A lot of characters, like so many characters. I think I'm done introducing new characters and no, more people. And they've got names and they've got dialogue. Like, if this were a film, this would be one of those ensemble casts where they have to put pictures of all the actors in little tiny boxes all the way around the movie poster, and they still wouldn't have room for all of them. There are so many characters. I'm about 25% into the audiobook, and so far the narrator is very good and the story is very, very fast. But I'm enjoying it so far. I have some other books to tell you about, including 2 books that feature talking ghosts and mysteries, and one has a con artist. So we're going to start with Happy Medium by Sarah Adler, which comes out on April 30th. And this is the cover copy. A clever con woman must convince a skeptical, sexy farmer of his property's resident real-life ghost if she's going to save them all from a fate worse than death. Also, is there another kind of farmer than skeptical and sexy? I have not met many farmers in romances that aren't both sexy and possibly also skeptical. Gretchen Acorn is a fake medium who suddenly can communicate with the dead, and the ghost who she's communicating with, named Everett, wants her help to free the hero, Charlie, from a generational curse. And this is the last line of the cover copy, and this is why I'm very curious. To save the goat farm, its friendly phantom, and the man she's beginning to love, Gretchen will need to pull off the greatest con of her life, being fully and genuinely herself. Now, I had started reading this book, and it's extremely grabby. Like it grabbed my brain, and I'm still thinking about it, and I've only read like a chapter and a half, so I'm very excited about that one. But in a happy coincidence, 2 books with talking ghosts. The second one is called An Enchanting Case of Spirits by Melissa Holtz, and it comes out on April 9th. And this is the cover copy. When a 40th birthday celebration leads to a ghostly visitor, 4 friends find themselves navigating surprising mysteries and spiritual hijinks. Alyssa Mann isn't adventurous, not since her husband died, and she found herself the single mom of a teenage daughter. But there's no way to avoid celebrating the big 4-0. So when her best friends drag her out for drinks and a tarot reading, she throws caution to the wind and decides to see what the spirits have to say. It's all fun and games until she wakes up the next morning with a wicked hangover and a ghost perched on the end of her bed. Sheer panic sends her running to get help from Nick West, the very attractive detective who lives next door. And when he finds no one inside, Alyssa has to accept that she really did see a ghost. As the dearly departed keep appearing, Alyssa and her friends do their best to learn how to control her newfound power. Trading insults with ghosts, tracking down family heirlooms, and getting closer to the skeptical but helpful Nick is more fun than Alyssa imagined. But when looking into one ghost's past reveals unexpected and unwelcome facts about Alyssa's late husband's death, she discovers she may be in over her head. So I love the idea of a mystery and all of these ghosts, like, you need to fix my shit. I need you to fix my shit because you're alive and I am not. Please go fix my shit. I don't know if by detective they mean police officer. I do struggle to read cops as heroes in romances, especially contemporary romances. But I'm very curious about ghosts who want you to deal with their problems and also being able to see and talk to ghosts all of a sudden and solve family mysteries. Like, family mysteries are really kind of fun and interesting. I dig that as an option. The next book I want to tell you about is A Letter to the Luminous Deep by Sylvie Cathrall. If you don't look up any of the books in this bonus episode, look up this one because the cover is gorgeous. Like, whoever came up with the title and whoever art directed the cover knew what they were doing because it is beautiful. So here is the cover copy. A beautiful discovery outside the window of her underwater home prompts the reclusive E to begin a correspondence with renowned scholar Henry Clell. The letters they share are filled with passion, at first for their mutual interests, and then inevitably for each other. Together they uncover a mystery from the unknown depths, destined to transform the underwater world they both equally fear and love. But by no mere coincidence, a seaquake destroys E's home, and she and Henry vanish. A year later, E's sister Sophie and Henry's brother Viren, V-Y-E-R-I-N, I'm going to say Viren, are left to solve the mystery, piecing together the letters, sketches, and field notes left behind and learn what their siblings' disappearance might mean for life as they know it. So we have an underwater world and we have an epistolary book. I am such a sucker for anything epistolary. I don't know if it comes from having read 84 Charing Cross Road, the script for that, like 1,000 times, or if it's some other book that like shaped me, but I love epistolary novels where you write letters to cross characters. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. 2 more books to tell you about. The first one comes out on the 9th. It is called How to End a Love Story by Yulin Kuang. And Kuang is the adapting screenwriter for Emily Henry's People We Meet on Vacation. And she's also the writer and director of the adaptation of Beach Read, both for 20th Century Studios. So Yulin Kuang is a screenwriter as well as a novelist. Here is the cover copy for this book. Helen Zhang hasn't seen Grant Shepard once in 13 years since the tragic accident that bound their lives together forever. Now a best-selling author, Helen pours everything into her career. She has even scored a coveted spot in the writer's room of the TV adaptation of her popular young adult novels. And if she can hide her imposter syndrome and overcome her writer's block, surely the rest of her life will fall into place too. One thing that's really interesting about cover copy is that it's not meant to be read aloud. There's so many subordinate clauses and so many similar syllables next to each other. Anyway, at least I don't think it's meant to be read aloud because I am struggling. So back to the cover copy. LA is the fresh start that she needs. Of course it is. After all, no one knows her there except Grant. Grant has done everything in his power to move on from the past, including building a life across the country. And while the panic attacks have never quite gone away, he's well liked around town as a screenwriter. He knows he shouldn't have taken the job on Helen's show, but it will open doors to developing his own projects that he cannot pass up. Grant is exactly as Helen remembers, charming, funny, popular, and lovable in ways that she has never been. And Helen is exactly as Grant remembers, brilliant, beautiful, closed off. But working together is messy and electrifying, and Helen's parents, who have never forgiven Grant, have no idea that he's in the picture at all. When secrets come to light, they must reckon with the fact that theirs was never meant to be any kind of love story. And yet, the key to making peace with their pasts and themselves might lie in holding on to each other in the present. Again, I don't think cover copy is meant to be read aloud, but if you like stories about writers and you like the behind the scenes parts of stories that are in specific niche, interesting industries like TV writing, screenwriting, novel writing, this sounds like if you dig Emily Henry, and obviously there's a connection there, you would dig this. And finally, a book that I might not be able to read, but am happy to know about and definitely want to tell you about. Alyssa Cole has a new thriller coming out on April 16th. And here is the cover copy. It is called One of Us Knows. Years after a breakdown and a diagnosis of dissociative identity disorder derailed her historical preservationist career, Kenitria Nash and her alters have been given a second chance they can't refuse, position as resident caretaker of a historic home. Having been dormant for years, Ken has no idea what led them to this isolated Hudson River island, but she's determined not to ruin their opportunity. Then a surprise visit from the home's conservation trust, just as a nor'easter bears down on the island, disrupts her newfound life, leaving Ken trapped with a group of possibly dangerous strangers, including the man who brought her life tumbling down years earlier. And when he turns up dead, Ken is the prime suspect. Ken and her alters must band together to prove their innocence and discover the truth of Kavanaugh Island and their own past, or they risk not only losing their future, but their life. Now, I don't know, like I said, I don't know if I can read this. I am pretty sure that dissociative identity disorder is the more contemporary name for what used to be called alternate personality disorder. But I am very curious about this because the thing about Cole's writing is that there are so many pieces of what in the world that is happening now informs the story and informs the characters. Like I still think about when she did the audiobook for Audible, The AI Who Loved Me, the main character spends all of her time looking at live streams of different families from around the world, and that these were like full-time channels. And I was like, well, yep, I can see how that could happen. They're always like 1/4 inch off of reality. Like I said at the beginning, with a good April Fool's prank, you want to be just a little bit this side of improbable, but also extremely plausible. And that's what Cole specializes in as well. It's extremely plausible that a lot of this shit comes true. And then sometimes things that she does write come true, which is quite eerie. Those are the books that are, some of the books that are on my TBR that I wanted to tell you about. And I would love to know what is on your TBR. You can find me in the Discord. You can find me on the Patreon post for this, but I would love to know what in April is on your list. What can you absolutely not wait to read? Thank you for being part of the podcast Patreon. Your support means a lot. I hope you enjoyed this bonus episode, and please tell me what's on your TBR.